Would
Yeah,
you like to share the
yeah.
screen as well?
Yes, Madhya, I can share. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. When are you ready? You can start, Madhya, with prayers. Yeah.
Hare Krishna to all. Dandavat Pranam to Prabhuji and everybody in the class, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances. We're reading Sri Chaitanya Chitamrit Madhyam Lila, chapter 8 today. Title talks between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramana and Rai, verses from 188 to 211. नमो विष्णु पदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चात्यादेष्टाइने जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय जय नित्यानंदा जय जय चंद्र जय गौरा भक्त वृंदा जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा. Starting text reading 188. A person who is very cunning and always youthful, expert in joking and without anxiety, and who can keep his girlfriends always subjected, is called Dhira Lalita. Text 189. Day and night, Lord Shri Krishna enjoys the company of Srimati Radharani in the bushes of Vrindavan. Thus, his pre youthful age is fulfilled through his affairs with Srimati Radharani. Text 190. Thus, Lord Shri Krishna spoke of the sexual activities of the previous night. In this way, he made Srimati Radharani close her eyes out of shyness. Taking this opportunity, Shri Krishna painted various types of dolphins on her breasts. Thus, he became a very expert artist for all the gopis. During such pastimes, the Lord enjoyed the fulfillment of his youth. Text 191, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "This is all right, but please continue." Text 192, Ray Ramananda then informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that there was another topic known as Prema Vilas Vivarta. "You may hear of this from me," Ramanand Rai said, "but I do not know whether you will be happy with it or not." Text 193. Saying this, Ramananda Rai began to sing a song he had composed, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his ecstasy of love of God, had immediately covered Ramanand Rai's mouth with his own hand. Text 194. Else, before we met, there was an initial attachment between us, brought about by an exchange of glances. In this way, attachment evolved. That attachment has gradually grown and there is no limit to it. Now that attachment has become a natural sequence between ourselves. It is not that it is due to Krishna, the enjoyer, nor it is due to me, for I am the enjoyed. It is not like that. This attachment was made possible by mutual meeting. This mutual exchange of attraction is known as Manobhav or Cupid. Krishna's mind and my mind have merged together. Now, during this time of separation, it is very difficult to explain these loving affairs. My dear friend, though Krishna might have forgotten all these things, you can understand and bring this message to him. But during our first meeting, there was no messenger between us, nor did I request anyone to see him. Indeed, Cupid's 5 arrows were our via media. Now, during this separation, that attraction has increased to another aesthetic state. My dear friend, please act as a messenger on my behalf, because if one is in love with a beautiful person, this is the consequence. Text 195. Oh my lord, you live in the forest of Govardhan Hill, and like the king of elephants, you are expert in the art of conjugal love. O master of the universe, your heart and Srimati Radharani's heart are just like the shellac and are now melted in your spiritual perspiration. Therefore, one can no longer distinguish between you and Srimati Radharani, and now you have mixed your newly invoked affection, which is like vermilion with your melted hearts. And for the benefit of the whole world, you have painted both your hearts red within this great palace of the universe. Text 196, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed these verses recited by Sri Ramanand Rai, saying, "This is the limit of the goal of human life. Only by your mercy have I come to understand it conclusively." Text 197. The goal of life cannot be achieved unless one practices the process. Now, being merciful upon me, please explain that means by which this goal can be attained. Text 198. Sri Ramanand Rai replied, "I do not know what I am saying, but you have made me speak what I have spoken, be it good or bad. I am simply repeating that message." Text 199. Within these three worlds, who is so undisturbed that he can remain steady as you manipulate your different energies? Text 200. Actually, you are speaking through my mouth, and at the same time, you are listening. This is very mysterious. Anyway, kindly hear the explanation of the process by which the goal can be attained. Text 201. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna are very confidential. They cannot be understood through the mellows of servitude, fraternity, or parental affection. Text 202. Actually, only the gopis have the right to appreciate these transcendental pastimes, and only from them can these pastimes be expanded. Text 203. Without the gopis, these pastimes between Radha and Krishna cannot be nourished. Only by their cooperation are the pastimes broadcasted. It is their business to test the mellows. Text 204 and 205. Without the help of the gopis, one one cannot one without the help of the gopi, one cannot enter into these pastimes. Only one who worships the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis, following in their footsteps, can engage in the service of Sri Radha Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavan. Only then can one understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. There is no other procedure for understanding. Text 206. The pastimes of Sri Radha Krishna are self effulgent. They are happiness personified, unlimited and all powerful. Even so, the spiritual humors of such pastimes are never complete without the gopis, the Lord's personal friends. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is never complete without his spiritual potencies. Therefore, unless one takes shelter of the gopis, one cannot enter into the company of Radha and Krishna, who can be interested in their spiritual pastimes without taking their shelter. Text 207. There is an explicable fact about the natural inclinations of the gopis. The gopis never want to enjoy themselves with Krishna personally. Text 208. The happiness of the gopis increased 10 million times when they serve to engage Shri Radha and Krishna in their transcendental pastimes. Text 209. By nature, Srimati Radharani is just like a creeper of love of Godhead, and the gopis are the twigs, flowers, and leaves of that creeper. Text 210. When the nectar of Krishna's pastime is sprinkled on that creeper, the happiness derived by the twigs, flowers, and leaves is 10 million times greater than that derived by the creeper itself. Last text of the day, text 211. All the gopis, the personified friends of Srimati Radharani, are equal to her. Krishna is pleasing to the inhabitants of Braj Bhumi, just as the moon is pleasing to the lotus flower. His pleasure giving potency is known as Aladani, of which the active principle is Srimati Radharani. She is compared to a creeper with newly grown flowers and leaves. When the nectar of Krishna's pastime is sprinkled on Srimati Radharani, all her friends, the gopis, immediately appreciate the pleasure of 100 times more than if they were sprinkled themselves. Actually, this is not at all wonderful. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nityananda, Gaur Nityananda Hari ki Jai, Vaishnava Gan ki. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Over to you, please. Take it from here.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So I'll briefly share one context one more time, and then we can go to the verses. Essentially, we're hearing the conversation between Sri Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, personally at the bank of the Godavari River. That's what we're hearing. And in that conversation, the first question Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Rai was about what is the goal of life. And then Ramananda Rai humbly started to answer saying that he's able to speak whatever he's speaking only by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, only by the empowerment of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he speaks different levels of devotion. First, he starts with karma, nishkam karma yoga, and then finally goes to gnana mishra bhakti, and then bhakti without any gnana. Then finally talks about bhakti in a different rasas, and finally goes to Madhurya rasa, and how the topmost love in bhakti is by Srimati Radharani and the gopis towards Krishna, like that. And after that, Lord Chaitanya was very, very pleased that he explained the topmost love is the love of the gopis. And then he goes to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks the second question. He asks to explain the tattva of Krishna, the tattva of Srimati Radharani, and the tattva related to the past tense of Radha and Krishna, like that. So he explains how Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and Krishna's position he explains fully and glorifies Krishna. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Radha Ramananda Rai, in conversation with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he starts to explain Radharani's tattva, how she is she's the Haladini Shakti, more specifically, the Mahabhava, which is part of the prema of the Mahabhava, which is a part of the prema, essential part of prema, and essential, which is the essential part of Haladini Shakti, like that. Then he described the tattva of Srimati Radharani. And then yesterday we discussed how he describes glorifies the transcendental body of Srimati Radharani. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks him to describe more about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So he starts to describe that section. That is the section we are in now. Let me see, 211, right? Let me share my screen. Yeah, 211 is the last verse, but 188 is the first verse for today. Yesterday we were reading these two verses where so Lord Krishna was referred to as Dhira Lalita. He's very cunning and always youthful and expert in joking and without anxiety, like that. And then many of these verses don't have the purport, but I will refer to, if there's any purport, I'll share some things also from that verse. There's one verse that is a big purport today. The rest of them don't have purports. So 189 is describing how Krishna and Radharani are enjoying every night. And then 190 is describing the and amorous pastimes of Radha and Krishna, how Lord Sri Krishna used to paint on Srimati Radha and his body also, and he became like an expert artist for all the gopis, like that he says. And then next 191 describes, now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after hearing all this, he wants him to describe further. After describing all this, then Ramananda Raya goes into humble mode, says that there's one more topic that's called Prema Vilasa Vivarta. Like that in 182 is discussing. Prema Vilasa Vivarta means the resultant bewilderment or ecstasy or revolution in the ecstasy of loving affairs, it seems. So he says, you may hear from this, but I don't know whether you will be happy with it or not. Prabhupada writes in the purport that Ramananda Raya is a little bit hesitating whether Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approves this or not, like that. Whether he has the relation is correct or not, like that. Then 193rd verse, which is a long purport, Ramananda Rai began to sing that, it seems, which is from Prema Vilas Vivarta. That is a book written by, let me see, I think Prabhupada writes in the next purport. The topics that are about to be discussed cannot be understood. Yeah, I cannot find the book name now. I will see in the next verse. Maybe it's there in next verse. Then we can discuss that. Basically, this verse is saying that 193rd verse is saying that he started to sing that what about the ecstatic love of Godhead. But then Ramananda Rai immediately tried to close the mouth of Ramananda Rai, it seems. Why? Because that is in the next verse also. Because he thought if Mayavadis come to listen to this, or if Jnanis come to listen to this, they cannot understand this high level pastimes, like that. That's why he tried to close the mouth of Ramananda, it seems. The purport, uh, Prabhupada writes, the spiritual mellow can be realized only when one is on the transcendental platform, above the bodily conception, above the material stage of goodness. When somebody is in Vishuddha Sattva, that means pure goodness, then only they can understand these high pastimes like that. And then, yeah, then there are three books that describe this kind of Leelas, it seems. One by Bhaktadasa Baula, and that is called Vivarta Vilasa, it seems. Another book was compiled by Jagadananda Pandita, and it's called Prema Vivarta. And Ramananda Rai has a book called Prema Vilasa Vivarta, it seems. Oh, his own book then. Okay. Prema Vilasa Vivarta was his book name, it seems. So Prabhupada is also writing in the purport, one important point, that materialistic philosophers, even though they are PhDs, are Sahajiyas who don't have real devotion. They cannot understand these high talks between Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Because they think spiritual means everything void, everything opposite of material. They cannot understand how the variety can be there in spiritual world also. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was closing the mouth, it seems. In the in the next verse, 184, we hear um, more description about the how the conjugal attachment and separation are in one level, uh, both are transcendental pleasure, it seems. Both give transcendental pleasure, it seems. Let me read that. Cupid becomes a messenger. At the time of separation, Cupid becomes a messenger between Srimati Radharani and Krishna, it seems. Um, yeah. Basically, the main point here is the transcendental loving affairs between Radha and Krishna are very relishable, even whether it is a separation or whether it's a union. Both are giving conjugal enjoyment to them, it seems. That's the main point being told here. And then one example is when Srimati Radharani was fully absorbed in Krishna, she mistakes a black tamala tree to be Krishna and embraces it. Such a mistake is called Prema Vilasa Vivarta. So this is the highest thing that Ramananda Rai is describing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now. So now he says, you live in the forest of Godhan Hill and you are expert in conjugal love. Mm, yeah. And he describes how they're both inseparable between Radharani and Krishna, like that he describes in this verse. Then going to 196 verse, there's no purport for these verses. Apparently, this 195 verse is from Ujjwal Ninamani. It is written by Srila Rupa Goswami, it seems. So the next verse is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you came to the limit of the goal of human life. That means, remember he was asking about the goal of human life. So this first question is concluding here, basically. You came to the goal of life, limit now. Now he starts to go to the next question he wanted to ask. What is the next question? He says, we can reach to the goal of life only with practicing some process, that is bhakti process. Now, being merciful upon me, please explain me the means, the process by which this goal can be attained. Now, until now, he asked what is the goal of life, what is perfection of life. Now he's asking what is the process to reach the goal of life, like that. Then Sri Ramananda replies, now again he takes the humble position. I don't know what I'm saying, but you are making me speak what I have spoken. I'm simply repeating that message. And then he says, within these three worlds, who is so undisturbed that he can remain steady as you manipulate your different energies, like that. Basically, he's saying that you are only speaking through my mouth. And at the same time, you're also listening to me. That is very mysterious to me. Anyway, I will explain the process of the goal, process to attain the goal, like you asked, like that. He started to explain. And he starts to explain that actually these pastimes of Radha and Krishna are very confidential. Oh, actually, I want to explain one nice thing from the purport here. It's a beautiful purport. One important point, actually, several important points Prabhupada makes in this purport. One is that Prabhupada says we need to hear Krishna Katha only from a Vaishnava. Even that Vaishnava is not a great scholar. If he has some surrender to Krishna, then we can hear from him. But Even if somebody is a great scholar, if he's not a Vaishnava, we should not hear for him. And he gives the example of how milk is nice, but is when it's touched by serpent or snake, then the poison will come into the milk, so it's not good anymore. And then Krishna Katha is nice, hearing Krishna Katha is nice, but if it's spoken by a Vaishnava, then becomes like poison. It's not good for us like that. So it's important to understand, because some people think, oh, it's all about Krishna Katha. So we can hear from anywhere, doesn't matter. Everybody is nice, everybody is equal. We should not have this partitioning mentality like that. Everybody is equal. As long as Krishna Katha, we're okay like that. Prabhupada is conveying to us. That's not okay. It's not helpful for our devotion service like that. Then Prabhupada clarifies how is that when a pure Vaishnava speaks, he's speaking perfectly, because he says when a pure Vaishnava speaks, actually Lord Krishna is in the heart of pure Vaishnava, and Lord Krishna is cooperating with the pure Vaishnava by giving him the intelligence, by giving him the right words at the right time, so to assist in his service like that. Whereas non-devotees, Vaishnavas, they're only thinking about how can I enjoy, how can I enjoy. Even when they're speaking, they're thinking about how can I enjoy like that. So when their mood is like that, Krishna doesn't help them to share the reality, exact reality like that. The realization, he doesn't give the realization, he doesn't get the right words like that. That is why uh, pure devotees can speak valuable relations that we can listen to. Whereas Vaishnavas cannot share anything about Krishna, because they cannot understand anything about Krishna. Other point Prabhupada is making is this possible because the influence of Mahamaya on the Vaishnavas and Yogamaya. Yogamaya means internal presence of Krishna in the case of devotees, especially pure devotees. That is why we need to hear from pure devotees and not from Vaishnavas like that. That is one point. Going to the next verse. These next sets of verses are focusing on one critical point. The point is that somebody might even develop bhakti, but then they may be in Santarasa, Dasarasa, Sakyarasa, Vatsalyarasa, like that. They may not be in conjugal rasa, madhurya rasa. If they're not in the madhurya rasa, they cannot understand Radha Krishna pastimes, even though they are in great Sakya rasa, like friends of Krishna, or great like parents of Krishna, like that. Still, they cannot understand the mellows of conjugal rasa, like that is saying. That's the theme of the next set of verses. We'll go through one at a time. And he says, okay, so we heard who cannot understand it. Now, who can understand the past tense properly? He says only the gopis have the right to appreciate the transitional past tense. So only from them these past tense can expand. Because without these gopis, the Radha Krishna past tense cannot be nourished. Only by their cooperating, these Radha Krishna past tense can be broadcast. And they can only taste the rasa of Radha Krishna pastimes, like that is speaking. Now, yeah, 24th, 25, okay. This verse has a big purport. It's a nice purport also. We'll go through that. Basically, first point in the purport is what we already discussed. Unless somebody is in a highest Madhurya Rasa, even if they're in Sakya Rasa, Dasya Rasa, or Vatsalya Rasa, they cannot understand Krishna, Radha Krishna pastime. That is one point is making. Second point is making is only if somebody can enter into the service of the Krishna in conjugal love, um, by following the footsteps of gopis, then only they can understand this Madhurya Rasa pastimes of between Krishna and Radharani, like that it says. Next point he makes is, hmm, interestingly, he gives defines the word, Prabhupada defines the word Sakhi. He says, one who expands the conjugal love of Krishna and his enjoyment among the gopis is called a Sakhi. And they are like jewels. And then, now, Prabhupada is quoting Rupa Goswami's literature called Ujjwala Nilamani, where what do the gopis actually do? How do gopis give pleasure to Radha and Krishna? That is wonderfully described. Prabhupada writes in first business, second business, third business, like that he writes nicely. We'll go through it. First of all, in the pastimes of Radha Krishna, Krishna is the hero and Radharani is the heroine. And then He says, first, what is the first business of gopis? Is to chant the glories of Krishna and Radharani. Number first thing that they do. Second thing they do is they create a situation where both Krishna and Radharani can be attracted to each other. Hero and heroine should be attracted to each other somehow. They'll create a situation like that. Then the third business is to induce both of them to somehow come together like that, approach each other. And the third business is they will surrender to Krishna. And then fifth business is to create a jovial atmosphere. That means joyful atmosphere. And then the gopis give assurance to Radha and Krishna to enjoy their pastimes, it seems. And the seventh one is they dress both Radha and Krishna and they decorate both Radha and Krishna like that. Next one is their expert. They show their expertise in expressing their desires, it seems. That's how they show their expertise. And then ninth business is they conceal the faults of the heroine, Radharani. That means even if there are some faults in Radharani, they don't let them seen by Krishna like that. Of course, Radharani is the topmost, but still some apparent faults. 10th is to cheat their respective husbands and relatives so that they can be engaged in service of Radha and Krishna. 11th is to educate, and 12th is to enable Radha and Krishna, hero and heroine, to meet at the proper time. That means they will make arrangements so that Radha and Krishna can meet at the proper time like that. And then they also fan Radha and Krishna with fan, chamara, like that we do, right, for deities. And the 14th is sometimes they also reproach the hero, it seems. That means they scold Krishna and also Radharani. And 15th is to set the conversations in motions. That means they will have some topic for conversing between Radha and Krishna. And the final 16th one is to protect the heroine, Radharani, by various means, it seems. And Prabhupada writes in the next paragraph that materialistic sahajiyas who are not elevated yet, who are not pure yet, they cannot understand these pastimes. They imitate Krishna's pastimes. They think that this body is for enjoyment of Krishna. So they decorate this body for Krishna. Prabhupada writes, Krishna is not interested in this material body. All the bodies of gopis and Radharani are spiritual. So he doesn't like any material bodies like us. Like that, Prabhupada writes in the purport. So Prabhupada quotes Jiva Goswami, who wants that it's dangerous to think ourselves as we became Sup Krishna like that, or became Sakhis of Krishna, Gopis of Krishna like that. That's offensive. Even if we go to elevated platform later on, like that, Prabhupada, Jiva Goswami is writing, which Prabhupada is writing in the purport for us. The 206 verse, and basically, this is concluding the point that unless the pure devotees take shelter of gopis, they cannot enter into the company of Radha and Krishna. That means they cannot enjoy the rasa. They cannot understand, appreciate the rasa fully like that also. That is the point he being made. And the next verse, it says, the gopis never want to enjoy themselves with Krishna personally. So these set of verses are talking about how there's no selfishness, there's no envy in the spiritual world for gopis. In the material world, if somebody is my lover, I don't want somebody to approach him or her like that. But in the spiritual world, gopis are actually happy when Radha and Krishna meet instead of Krishna meeting with them personally. Because they know Radharani give the best pleasure to Lord Krishna. So that is why they're happy that when Krishna is pleased, they're happy. They're not thinking about how can I be happy. So that is the point emphasized in the next set of verses. So here the conclusion is made that gopis never want to enjoy themselves with Krishna explicitly personally. Now he elaborates that point. The happiness of gopis increases 10 million times when they serve to engage Radha and Krishna in their transcendental pastimes. So they actually, when Krishna meets the gopi, they get some pleasure X, let us say. But when Radharani and Krishna meet, they get 10 million times of the same pleasure, it seems. That is why they don't want their happiness of meeting Krishna only. They want the happiness of Krishna and Radha meeting together like that. So then they're comparing Srimati Radharani is like the creeper. Creeper means small plant that grows top like that, right? If you give some support, it keeps growing like that. And the gopis are like the small twigs, flowers, and leaves of that creeper like that. Like normally we hear the Krishna conscious tree analogy with branches, leaves like that, right? Similarly, here creeper analogy with the twigs, flowers, leaves like that is being described. And they're saying when Krishna's pastimes are on the creeper of Radharani, then the gopis are pleased. Like how when you water the roots of the creeper, then the twigs, flowers, and leaves are all will be nourished. Similarly, when Radharani is pleased with Krishna's pastimes, then they are also pleased like that. Then next point is when the nectar of Krishna's point pastimes is sprinkled. Yeah, this is the same thing we discussed. And then 211. Let me see if there's any purport. Yeah, this we discussed. 211th verse. Okay, there's no purport. This is a verse from Govinda Lila Amrita, it seems. Basically, it's saying that Krishna is pleasing to the inhabitants of Rajamoga. All the gopis are equal to Radharani, it seems. Then Radharani is the Ahladini potency. The active principle of Srimati Radharani is Ahladini potency, it seems. She is compared to creeper, where the newly grown flowers and leaves are like the gopis. So this is the same principle that he's saying, but by quoting a scripture from Rupa Goswami. This Rupa Goswami, let me see. This is called Govinda Lilamriti. I forgot the author of Govinda Lilamriti, but one of the acharyas only. Yeah, Govinda Lilamrita. So that's what he's quoting. That's a common principle Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami uses. He quotes a conclusion and then it supports with scripture. So that makes it very authentic like that. So we'll pause there. We'll continue in the next session. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer obeisance to all the devotees of the Lord. Pancha kalpatarubhyasya kupasandubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mate.